Hi guys, my name is Zenna and welcome to my channel. There's a fly in here. How do I get into this? I've been needing to make this video for a very long time. So in April of this year, so now what, 4 months ago? 5 months ago? I can't do math. I went partially paralyzed, and it was by far the craziest thing that I have ever gone through and the scariest thing that I've ever gone through in my entire life. But a lot of people have been asking me to update them on my health, and I figured that this was just the easiest way to do it. So to recap how I became paralyzed, going back to April 16th, I showed up for a makeup job, and I know this specific date because I was working on a commercial that day. And I got out of my car and I went to grab my makeup bag and I went to pick it up and I couldn't feel the bag in my left hand. And I was like, okay, this isn't normal. This is really weird. But I didn't really think too much of it because I figured, like, I don't know, I was dehydrated or something. And so by the end of that 12-hour day, I started feeling it in my right hand too. And I thought, man, my hands feel so weird. And I kind of just like kept playing with them because they felt almost numb, like they were asleep. And every time I would go to pick up a makeup brush, I couldn't really feel it in my hand. And I was like, this is just really weird. Maybe I'm having an off day, whatever. I thought that it was just gonna be gone the next day when I woke up. And I woke up and my hands were even worse. And I would go to touch things and I couldn't really feel them. And anytime I tapped anything, it felt like an electrical current was running up my hands, like my hands were asleep. By the end of that weekend, it was affecting almost my entire body. So my hands were feeling tingly, and then every time I took a step, it felt the same way. It felt like electrical current was running up my legs. And my feet felt like they were falling asleep, and I couldn't feel like my socks on my feet. Mind you, at this point, I still wasn't really freaking out. I just thought that this was just weird and that it would just go away. But about like the 4th or 5th day, I started getting, the best way I could describe it is heart palpitations. So it would feel like my heart skipped a beat and like I had to catch my breath. So I thought, okay, I guess it's probably time to tell my mom what's going on. So flash forward to, it had now been about almost a week since the commercial and since I started getting numbing in my left hand. I had decided to go down to Orange County to stay with my mom because I had another job that following day in Orange County. And when I got to her house, I was like, Mom, I just feel so weird. And my mom, being my mom, of course went to the internet and she was like, you have MS. You have this, you have that. And she was being super, super worried, which in hindsight, I probably should have been just as worried as she was, but like, I was 25, I was fine. I thought, I'm healthy, I'm fine, I feel fine, I just feel tingly. So the morning that I woke up at my mom's house, woke up at like 6 o'clock in the morning before my job that I was supposed to have, and I went to stand up and I couldn't feel my legs. And when I mean I couldn't feel my legs, I mean that like my brain was working and I was able to physically stand, but I couldn't feel anything. And I felt so weak that I literally felt like if I was going to take a step, I was going to fall over. So at this point, I finally decided, okay, maybe let's go to the hospital. So I went to the ER. And I was still trying to stay calm, and I went into the triage room that's where they kind of like go over your symptoms. And she goes, okay, I'm just gonna touch your arms. I'm gonna do like a neurological test on you. And I said, okay. So she took her 2 fingers and she ran her fingers up and down my arms, and she asked me if I could feel it. I broke down immediately. I started crying because I was watching this woman touch my arms and the sides of my neck and my face and my legs, and I was watching her physically touch me and I couldn't feel anything. So they admitted me into the hospital, and first they started checking me for a stroke. So they did all the common stroke tests, which are like stick out your tongue and smile, and all of those seemed to be okay. I was more primarily numb on the left side of my body, and so that's why they thought, okay, maybe stroke. So then they decided to do an MRI, and they did an MRI on my brain and my spine, and this was to rule out any kind of mass or tumor or honestly, I don't know, anything, and stroke. To be honest, I thought for sure she was going to come back and be like, you have a brain tumor. Like, that's where my brain was going. Anyways, the doctor came back in and she said that my test results were negative for any kind of mass or anything like remotely serious, but they did see a herniated disc in my neck. The doctor said she was pretty sure that that was not what was causing my symptoms. She said it would maybe cause some pain in like my left shoulder on my left side of my body, but it shouldn't be causing any of the numbness or the paralysis that I was having. She goes, listen, I really want to admit you into like an actual hospital room and run more tests on you and potentially do a spinal tap, but our hospital doesn't accept your insurance. You're out of network. And that was like a huge blow because I'd been there for like 6 or 7 hours. I was really scared, and so was my mom, and so was my dad. And we really wanted as many answers as we could get. The doctor goes, we're going to try and put in a transfer for you to a hospital that's in your network up in LA. And a transfer, basically, they would like put me in a medical vehicle of some sort and transfer me to that hospital. Long story short, the hospital in LA denied the transfer. So we were back to square one, which was basically to go home. So the doctor had no choice but to discharge me from the hospital and send me home. And they tried to schedule a follow-up appointment with a neurologist. So the next day we were supposed to call and meet with the neurologist, and the neurologist canceled the appointment. And we were so frustrated because I had been dealing with this now for over a week, but now it was getting to the point where I was completely debilitated. I couldn't walk. I couldn't drive. I couldn't really do anything for myself. I couldn't stand up and take a shower because I didn't have the energy and my legs weren't strong enough. And we were really scared. We finally got an appointment with the neurologist, and it was up in LA. He had gone over my test results and he was like, okay, my biggest concern was MS, but I can see from your blood work and from your MRI that you don't have MS. But you definitely are showing major signs of neuropathy and neurological symptoms, but I don't know why. So I'm going to order some more testing, is what he had told me. So we kind of left the neurologist appointment feeling super discouraged still and confused, and we were already up in LA, and we got the idea of, you know what, let's just go to this hospital up here in LA because we know for sure that they accept my insurance. Like, let's just try here and see what happens. So we go up to the ER in Burbank. And I'm sorry this is such a long story, but like, bear with me, I promise it gets better. They go through my paperwork from the previous hospital and they said, oh, they wanted you to do a lumbar puncture, which is a spinal tap, and test you for Guillain-Barré syndrome. We were like, Guillain-Barré syndrome? Nobody told us about that. The doctor just said like, oh, we want to test you and observe you. Basically, what they were thinking I might have had was this sudden onset paralytic syndrome called Guillain-Barré syndrome, and the only way to test for it is through a lumbar puncture, and it causes like sudden paralysis, and most people, if you have it, you have to be admitted into the ICU immediately. So they were like, we're going to do the lumbar puncture right now here in the ER. So I'm like, great, a needle in my spine. That's exactly what I wanted today. So I got the spinal tap, and let me tell you guys, it is not fun. It wasn't the worst thing in the entire world. Like, I didn't think I was going to die, but it was not fun at all. But basically the doctor said if your protein levels are elevated in your lumbar puncture, that means Guillain-Barré syndrome, so we're going to admit you into the ICU. If it's not, we're going to have to send you home and just have you follow up with your neurologist. So, of course, the test was negative. So they sent me home again. Over the course of the next couple of weeks, we followed up with a neurologist. We met with 5 other doctors, including a holistic doctor. We scheduled an appointment with an infectious disease doctor. We made every doctor's appointment you could think of. And finally, we saw a doctor that was like, I'm gonna take your case seriously. Not that the other ones weren't, but he was like, no, I'm determined to figure out what's wrong with you. And that was the holistic doctor. So the naturopath decided to test me for what's called heavy metal toxicity, and I tested positive. So this was the first like, oh wow, okay, this might be something that we can treat and might be something that actually is causing your symptoms. The doctor said that I most likely have lead poisoning and mercury poisoning. I'm sorry, what? Lead poisoning and mercury poisoning. No other doctor had tested me for any of this stuff. And if this story isn't making any sense, it's because it still doesn't really make any sense to me. So that doctor put me on a treatment plan for lead poisoning and mercury poisoning, and I started a vitamin detox, and I started the ketogenic diet, and I slowly started getting better. So after about a month and a half, slowly, finger by finger, toe by toe, my feelings started to come back, and my strength started to come back. But one of the other test results that also came back along with the heavy metal toxicity was an autoimmune disease of some sort. So my ANA levels were elevated in my blood work, which hinted that maybe I might potentially have lupus or rheumatoid arthritis, or what they really thought, or what flagged on my blood work specifically, was systematic scleroderma, which is a connective tissue disorder. So I haven't yet followed up with a rheumatologist, and this is probably my way of saying, hey guys, keep me accountable. I probably should follow up with a rheumatologist. But I started feeling better, and the treatment was working, and the mercury and lead poisoning treatment was working. To be honest though, through all of that, I learned so much about myself. Me being 25 years old at the time, I'm now 26, I had this expectation that I was just going to be healthy no matter what. You know, I walked around feeling like, what's the word? I can't think of the word. Invincible. I literally thought nothing would ever happen to me like this. But it did. It taught me a lot about faith. It taught me a lot about patience. It taught me a lot about family. And believe it or not, it taught me a lot about God. I was so frustrated and so angry and so confused because I couldn't figure out why is this happening to me? But now in hindsight, I see what he was doing. He made me pause, quite literally. Everything that I was taking advantage of, everything that I just was totally using in the sense of not being aware of how lucky I was, all of that came to like a screeching halt, and it slapped me right in the face. And I realized, like, wow, I am so lucky for my body. I am so lucky to be able to walk, to have health insurance, because imagine if I hadn't had health insurance. Just all these things that I have become so ungrateful for and so accustomed to having in my life all the time, everything was stripped away from me all at once. For those of you that keep asking, I am better. I don't know if the treatment for the mercury and lead poisoning is what cured me. I don't know if it was coincidence. I don't know if I did have Guillain-Barré syndrome and it was a false negative. I don't know if I do have lupus. I don't know still a lot of things. All I do know is that I am healthy now, which I'm super grateful for. So from the bottom of my heart, those of you that did reach out to me, thank you so much. I saw every message. I'm sorry if I didn't get back to everybody. It was so hard to be honest, I couldn't feel my fingertips, so I literally, like, texting took me so long, and I would try voice text and it messed everything up. Please, if you've been through anything like this, anything similar, please comment down below. Let me know. I would love to swap stories with you. And maybe if you're going through this now, I would love to be a voice of encouragement of some sort, because I know how scary it is to lose control of your body, and I know how scary it is to wake up one day and everything that you were used to and every bodily function you were used to being able to be in control of is gone, and now I know how scary that really truly is. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this.